Welcome to 12.4, surface areas and volumes of cones. So what's important here is that you notice the surface area of a cone. You have the area of a circle formula, pi r squared, which is what this is right here. The bottom of the cone is flat. It is a circle. So you need to get the surface area of the base, so pi r squared. And then to get the surface area of the cone, that's kind of weird. Here's the formula, pi r L. And it comes from, if we were to cut the cone and then lay it, unroll it, you'd get something like this. So this is your slant here. Slant height is L. Okay, and then so this is kind of a sector of a circle. So how they came up with the formula is using the sector of a circle formula for area. All right, so eventually when they were done, it simplified to just pi times the radius times the slant length. Okay, so you have to take the area of the base, which is pi r squared, plus the area of the cone part. All right, so remember that that's a two-part piece that you need for the surface area of a cone. Now, the volume of a cone is still the same thing. The area of the base times the height, and you take 1/3. You divide it by 3. All right, but in a cone, the base is a circle. So that's the area of the base, pi r squared, times the height, and then you divide by 3. That's fairly simple. Okay, so find the surface area of the right cone. So we have surface area equals the area of the base plus the area of the cone part, pi r L. So pi times 8 is the radius, and then pi times 8 is the radius again, and the slant length L is 16. So you just put that in your calculator, and let's figure that out. So 64 times pi, well, let's just figure it out without using pi here. 64 pi plus 8 times 16 is 128, and still times pi. So 64 pi plus 128 pi, that is 192 pi. All right, so take 192 times pi, and you'll get your answer. It's 603.19 square inches. And remember, this is area, surface area. Okay, number 2, same type of thing, except now your radius is going to be 5.5. So surface area is pi r squared plus pi r L. So pi times the radius is 5.5. And pi times 5.5 times 7.2. So 5.5 times 7.2 is 39.6 pi. And 5.5 squared is 30.25 pi. So add that to the 39.6, and you get 69.85 pi. So multiply that times pi, and we get 219.44 square centimeters. A right cone has a radius of 9 inches, so number 3, that's 9, and a height of 12. So we don't know the slant height, so we do the Pythagorean theorem. 9 squared plus 12 squared equals the slant length squared, so 81 plus 144 equals L squared. So 225 equals L squared. Take the square root, and that's 15 equals the slant length. So now surface area is pi times r squared plus pi times r times L. So now we take 81 times, I'll say 81 pi plus 9 times 15 gives you 135 pi. So that's 216 pi. 216 times pi gives us, 216 times pi equals 678.58 square feet. Number 4, again, a right cone has a diameter of 11.2. So what's the radius? 11.2 divided by 2 gives me 5.6 for the radius. And it has a height of 9.2. So again, surface area is pi times r squared, 5.6 squared, plus pi times 5.6 times L. We got to get L. So 5.6 squared plus 9.2 squared equals our L squared. So 5.6 squared is 31.36. 9.2 squared is 84.64. Add those together, and then take the square root of 116, and you get L to be 10.77. All right, 10.77, blah, blah, blah. So take that number times 5.6, and we get 60.3138, dot, dot, dot. And add that to the 5.6 squared times pi, and the overall answer is 287.996, which changes that to 288.00 square feet. Number 5, find the volume of the cone. All right, volume is 1/3 times the area of the base times height. So the area of the base is pi r squared, and then we're going to divide by 3. So pi times 10 squared times 13 all over 3. And that will give us our answer. So 10 squared is first, times 13 times pi, and then divide by 3. We get 1361.36 cubic millimeters. So it's cubed because it's volume. Number 6, volume equals pi times the radius squared times the height all over 3. 1 squared is 1, times 2 is 2, so 2 times pi, and then divide by 3. That's going to be 2.09 cubic meters. Number 7, cone has a diameter of 11.5 inches. The height is 15.2. Find in volume. So the area of the base is pi r squared. So 11.5 divided by 2 gives us a radius of 5.75 squared. And the height is 15.2. And then we divide by 3. So take 5.75 and square it. Multiply it by 15.2. And then multiply that by pi. And then we divide by 3. So that's 526.27, and this is in cubic inches for volume. That's number 7. Number 8, you have a right cone again. The radius is 3. Okay. The slant length is 6. So again, we're going to need our height. So pi r squared times the height over 3. So how do we get the height? By the Pythagorean theorem. 3 squared plus h squared equals 6 squared. So 9 plus h squared equals 36. Subtract the 9. H squared equals 25. Or 27, sorry. 27. And we get the square root of 27 is square root of 9 square root of 3, or 3 square root of 3. So I'm going to leave it like this first. Okay. So pi times r squared is 9. H is now 3 square root of 3 all over 3. All right, so just multiply that out. Pi times 9 times 3 times the square root of 3, 146.92, and then divided by 3. So that volume should be 48.97 cubic feet. All right, number 9, finding the surface area. Surface area is pi times the radius squared plus pi RL. So what do we know here? The surface area is 75.4. The radius is 3. And we don't know this length, the slant length. Okay, so what do we have here? 75.4 equals 9 pi plus 3 pi L. Well, we need to figure out what those values are. So 9 times pi is 28.2745 9.43, and 3 times pi is 9.424777961, okay, times L. So it takes 75.4, and I'm going to subtract off the 28.2743, and that gives me 47.1257 equals 9.4247777L. So I'm going to divide by that. So take that number, divided by 9.42437, and I get this lamp length to be 5.00 centimeters. Okay, number 10. Volume is pi r squared times the height over 3. So volume is 216 pi equals pi. We don't know the radius, but the height is 18 divided by 3. So here we can just say that's 6. All right, 18 divided by 3 is 6. And then we can divide off the 6 pi. And when we do that, we're left with r squared on the right and 216 divided by 6 on the left, which is 36. Take the square root, and r equals 6 inches. Number 11, the cones are similar. Find the surface area and volume of cone B. All right, so we're getting bigger. So the bigger one goes on top. So let's do volume first. That's what you're used to. The volume of B over the volume of A, 16 pi, is equal to the scale factor cubed. What's the scale factor? So 16 over 8 is 2. So we have the volume of B is to 16 pi as 8 is to 1. So the volume of B equals 8 times 16 times pi. We get 402.12, and that's going to be cubic feet. 402.12. Now surface area is very similar. So the surface area of B is to the surface area of A as the scale factor 2 is. And now since we're doing area, you just square the scale factor. So the surface area of B is to 36 pi as 4 is to 1. So the surface area of B is 4 times 36 times pi. So 452.39, and again, this is going to be square feet. I'll clean that up a little bit. So looking at the book, they actually left it in pi form. So really that would have been the answer here. 8 times 16, 80, and 48 is 128 pi. So that's the same thing as what that is as a decimal. And 4 times 36, that's 120, 144 pi, which is that number there. All right, same thing here. We want B, which we're getting smaller. So now the smaller number goes on top. So I'll start with the surface area this time. The surface area of B is to the surface area of A, 96 pi, as the scale factor. Now what's the scale factor? 2 and 8. Smaller number goes on top, so 2 over 8 is the same as 1 over 4. So 1 over 4, and it's area, so we're squaring it. Okay, so the surface area of B is to 96 pi, as 1 is to 16. So 16 times the surface area of B equals 96 pi. Divide off the 16. Surface area of B is the same as 6 pi. 6 times 16 is 96. All right. So 6 times pi gives you approximately 18.85. So that's your surface area of meters. Okay, the next thing is the volume. So the volume of B is to the volume of A as the scale factor is cubed. All right, so let's write that in. The volume of B is to the volume of A, 96 pi, and 1/4 cubed, which is 1 over 64. So 64 times the volume of B equals 96 times pi, divided by 64. So the volume of B is 3/2 pi, or you can just take 96 times pi divided by 64. You get the same thing as a decimal, which is 4.71. Again, this is meters cubed. Okay, number 9, the volume of the composite. So we're doing 2 volumes here. So the cylinder, volume of the cylinder is the area of the base times the height. So the radius is 3. The height is not 10. So from here to here, this would be 7. This whole length is 10. You got to subtract off this 3 here. All right, so 9 times 7 is 63. And then you do times pi. So 63 times pi is going to give you 197.92. But that's just the cylinder. We got to add the volume of the cone. So the volume of the cone is pi r squared times the height, and then you divide by 3. So here we have pi times 3 squared times 3. The height of the cone is 3. Then you're dividing by 3. All right, so really it's 9 pi. So 72 pi is the full answer, but 9 times pi. And then it's 28.27. Add those together, plus 197.92. And we get 226.19 cubic centimeters. Okay, number 14. So we want the volume of the box, which is length times width times height. So 5.1 times 5.1 times 5.1. And then we're going to subtract off this cone that's inside of it. So the volume of a cone is the area of the base, pi r squared, times the height. And then we're going to divide by 3. All right, so the radius is half of the length of the box here. So half of 5.1, so 5.1 divided by 2 is 2.55. Now square it. The height of the cone is going to be the height of the box, 5.1. And we're going to divide by 3. So first of all, 5.1 cubed. 5.1 times 5.1 times 5.1 is 132.651. Now let's figure out the volume of the cone. 2.55 squared, you have to do the exponent first, times 5.1 times pi, and then we divide by 3. You get 34.72795. So 132.651 minus 34.72795. So the volume without the cone in it is 97.92 cubic meters. All right, let's go on to 15. Or we'll skip 15, go to 16. So how do you see it? A snack stand serves a small order of popcorn in a cone shape and a large order of popcorn in a cylindrical container. Okay, do not perform any calculations. Okay, so don't perform any calculations. How many small containers of popcorn do you have to buy to equal the amount of popcorn in a large container? Well, as long as your radius is the same and your height is the same, which they are, then it takes 3 small containers. All right, so 3. You got to buy 3 because it's the volume is 1/3 of the cylinder. We've explained that. So part B is which container gives you more popcorn for your money. Okay, so your volume is 3 times as much in the cylinder. So if we take 3 times the $1.25, so that's going to be $3.75 to get the same volume as the popcorn that costs $2.50. So more for your money definitely is going to be buying the cylinder. So anytime they give you cones for things, just remember it's 1/3 of what it would be if they give you a cylinder or a prism. 17, find the volume. So, all right, here we have a 60-degree angle. This is 22. We need the radius. So we're going to use SOHCAHTOA. We have the adjacent side and the opposite side. So that's tangent of 60 equals the opposite over the adjacent. Multiply by r to get it out of the denominator, so r equals 22 divided by the tangent of 60. This is just to get the radius. So 22 divided by the tangent of 60 on your calculator will give you 12.70. Okay, so now we have that. Now we do the volume. So pi times 12.7 squared times the height, 22, divided by 3. So take that big number on your calculator and square it, and then times it by 22, and then times that by pi, and then divide it by 3. And you should get 3716.85, and this will be cubic feet. It's volume. 18, again, let's take a look at this triangle. This is 32, and this is 7 here for the radius. All right, so we need the height. So what do you got? The opposite leg and the adjacent leg. So again, tangent of 32 equals the opposite leg over the adjacent leg multiplied by h to get out of the denominator, and 7 divided by the tangent of 32 should give me the height. So 7 divided by the tangent of 32 gives me 11.202. So the volume again is pi times r squared times the height, 11.202, divided by 3. So take that long number on your calculator and times it by 49, that's 7 squared, times it by pi, and then divide it by 3. Get 574.82 cubic yards. Good job. Here are the answers. And that's it.